the forgotten queen who outsmarted a tyrant king. In the shadows of history lie countless stories of remarkable women whose brilliance and courage have been lost to time. Today, we uncover one such tale, the extraordinary story of Queen Artemisia II of Caria, a woman who used her wit, intelligence, and strategic thinking to outmaneuver one of history's most ruthless tyrants. Our story begins in the 4th century BCE, in the ancient kingdom of Caria, located in what is now modern-day Turkey. This was a time when the Persian Empire dominated much of the known world, and local rulers lived under the constant threat of imperial wrath. Into this dangerous political landscape stepped a woman who would prove that sometimes the greatest weapon is not a sword, but a brilliant mind. Queen Artemisia II came to power after the death of her husband, King Mausolus. But her reign was immediately threatened by a powerful and vindictive Persian satrap named Orontabates, a man known for his cruelty and his habit of crushing anyone who dared to challenge his authority. Orontabates had his eyes set on Caria, seeing it as a prize to be claimed through force and intimidation. The tyrant's reputation preceded him wherever he went. He had burned entire cities, enslaved thousands, and showed no mercy to those who opposed him. His army was vast, his resources seemingly unlimited, and his hunger for conquest insatiable. When he turned his attention to Artemisia's kingdom, many expected her to either flee or submit without a fight. But Artemisia was not like other rulers. She had learned statecraft from her late husband, who had been both a skilled diplomat and a visionary leader. More importantly, she possessed something that Orontabates lacked, despite all his military might: genuine intelligence and the ability to think several moves ahead of her opponents. When Orontabates sent his first delegation demanding her immediate surrender, Artemisia surprised everyone by inviting the ambassadors to a grand feast. She treated them with incredible hospitality, showering them with gifts and treating them like honored guests rather than enemies. The confused delegates returned to their master with tales of the queen's unexpected kindness and apparent weakness. This was Artemisia's first move in what would become a masterful game of psychological warfare. She understood that Orontabates, like many tyrants, was driven by ego and the need to dominate. By appearing weak and submissive, she was baiting him into underestimating her capabilities. The tyrant took the bait completely. Convinced that victory would be easy, he began to plan not just the conquest of Caria, but an elaborate celebration of his anticipated triumph. He even commissioned artists to create monuments depicting his victory before the battle had even begun. His arrogance grew with each passing day. Meanwhile, Artemisia was working tirelessly behind the scenes. She secretly reached out to other Persian satraps who had grown tired of Orontabates' increasingly erratic behavior and his habit of claiming credit for their victories. She also made contact with local tribal leaders who resented Persian rule but had been too afraid to act alone. But her most brilliant move was yet to come. Artemisia discovered that Orontabates had a weakness that few knew about. He was terrified of naval warfare. Despite commanding vast land armies, he had always avoided sea battles, preferring to fight on solid ground where he felt in control. Using this knowledge, Artemisia devised a plan that was as audacious as it was clever. She began spreading rumors that she was planning to flee by sea, taking her treasure with her. She even went so far as to publicly order ships to be prepared and loaded with what appeared to be valuable cargo. Orontabates, fearing that his prize would escape, was forced to confront his greatest fear. He assembled a naval force, despite his inexperience with sea warfare. But here's where Artemisia's true genius revealed itself. The ships she had been loading weren't carrying treasure at all. They were filled with her most loyal soldiers, disguised as fleeing courtiers. On the day of the planned naval confrontation, Orontabates arrived with his hastily assembled fleet, expecting to find a desperate queen trying to escape. Instead, he found himself facing a carefully orchestrated trap. Artemisia's ships, manned by experienced sailors and warriors, surrounded his fleet in a formation he had never encountered before. But the queen wasn't finished. As the naval battle raged, her land forces, which Orontabates thought he had accounted for, emerged from hidden positions around the coastline. These weren't random soldiers. They were the combined forces of all the allies she had secretly recruited over the previous months. The tyrant found himself caught in a pincer movement, attacked simultaneously from sea and land by an alliance he never saw coming. His forces, expecting an easy victory, were completely unprepared for the coordinated assault they now faced. What followed was not just a military defeat, but a complete psychological collapse. Orontabates, the feared tyrant who had never known failure, panicked. His terror of naval combat, combined with the shock of being completely outmaneuvered, caused him to make increasingly desperate and irrational decisions. In the end, the man who had conquered dozens of cities and ruled through fear was captured not in a glorious battle, but while trying to flee in a small boat, disguised as a common fisherman. The mighty tyrant had been reduced to a coward, brought low not by superior force, but by superior intelligence. Artemisia's victory sent shockwaves throughout the Persian Empire. Here was proof that even the most feared tyrants could be defeated, not through brute force, but through careful planning, psychological insight, and the courage to act on a brilliant strategy. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this story is what Artemisia did next. Instead of executing Orontabates or subjecting him to the same cruelties he had inflicted on others, she chose a different path. She exiled him to a remote island, where he lived out his days in obscurity, forgotten by history while her legend grew. The Forgotten Queen had not only outsmarted a tyrant, but had done so while maintaining her moral principles. She proved that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy one's enemies, but from the wisdom to defeat them without becoming like them. Today, while Orontabates is remembered only as a footnote in ancient texts, Queen Artemisia II stands as a testament to the power of intelligence over brute force, of strategy over strength, and of courage over cruelty. Her story reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories are won not on the battlefield, but in the theater of the mind, where a brilliant queen can outmaneuver even the most fearsome tyrant. This is the story of the Forgotten Queen who proved that wit can triumph over wickedness, and that sometimes the pen truly is mightier than the sword.